Audio check as usual. Audio check. All black. Audio check, audio check. Okay, that's good. It's all working. Stretch, this thing is black for me. Anyway, nice to be back, guys. It's been only a couple of weeks, I think, but it's I'm very excited because, you know, in this couple of weeks, the software moved forward in a couple of very exciting areas, and so it's the best period really for me, because I'm allowed to go around, break stuff, and make changes, and yeah, so usually I go through this sort of high and low feelings through the development, where I get excited and happy during this part of the development, and then as we get closer to the release, you know, things start to get, of course, more serious and more stressing, because you have to make sure that all the things that you put inside the new one and the old one are still working. So yeah, for this second season of this streams, I wanted to change a little bit the format and go into a sort of situation where we have two different kind of episodes, where on Sunday I do a little bit more talking about features and in general about Assetto Corsa, so it's something like, you know, a bit more packed with information compared to the typical coding stream, where is about 1 hour of coding, and it could be interesting, of course, to watch. I will still do that on Wednesday, so basically the appointment will be Sunday for this kind of stream with more information and talking, and for the Wednesday it's going to be more coding like it used to be in the old one. So let's start to see what is going on. I won't reveal everything, but you know, the changelog for 1.3 is already interestingly big, you know, which is very nice. So the first big news is, of course, as I have hinted on Twitter, is the 64-bit build. This is something that I've had around for some months, and the big problem that I had to solve was with the linking the Python DLL. Because basically what is happening is that all the other DLLs that we're linking, they are provided in two versions, the 32-bit version and 64-bit version. So what you do, you can just put this DLL in the root folder of the software, and the two exe, the 32-bit and the 64-bit, will just link to the correct one. This didn't work for Python, and it was sort of an headache, and I basically found a solution to solve this without forcing me to go on Steam and have two completely different depots for the 64 and the 32-bit. So it's all in one as it is now. So so that's all good. And right now I'm always running the 64-bit. I don't think there is any improvement as far as performance. Of course, there is a big improvement for memory, because 64-bit allow you to use all the memory you have on your computer. So, of course, that's a good thing. And 64 is more than 32, so it's gonna be better for that reason. The next cool thing that I'm working on is DRS. So what I'm doing is I'm adding DRS zones to the track. And I wasn't really a fan of DRS, but I have to admit that the fact that if you can use it just in some definite part of the track, it just makes it more enjoyable to use, because you are not constantly stressing yourself over trying to open this DRS as soon as possible, coming out from every corner. And so it's sort of free that part of the brain and say, okay, this is where I can use it. So, and it's usually placed in some segment of the track that are safe to use. So, for example, we will see it now, a small demo at Spa. You cannot use it in the Eau Rouge, so it's not a matter of saying, okay, will the car do it or will not do it? It's just you cannot use it there, end of the story. So there is only one part of the track where you can use it. The cool thing about the DRS zones is that the server will be actually able to define its own zones. So for single player, you will get the zone that we decide to give you in the single player. But in the multiplayer, the server administrator could decide, okay, you know, in my opinion, this segment of the track is safe enough to allow DRS on. And so the server will override whatever DRS zone that are available on the client. And of course, the client will listen to what the server is saying. Also, the server will be able to override the rules during the race. So the server will be able to decide how many laps you have to do before the DRS become active. And also will be able to decide what's the gap you need to have with the car in front of you in order for the DRS to be enabled during the race. So that's pretty exciting. It's starting to give this DRS a much nicer and more completed feel. And let me just give you an idea of how it works. Should be already set for this. By the way, this is something new. We are changing the way the software is starting. So instead of having the car, we have these images from the track going on. And we gain this also in single player to put information about whatever we want. And I will talk more about this. So right now we are with the Lotus. And so I have my DRS, but if I press to use it, nothing happens. So once I get into a DRS area, my DRS indicator will turn green, and it means that I can use it. Here it is, now it's green, and I can go with the DRS. And this is, in Spa, this is the only place where, at the moment, I've enabled the DRS. So, honestly, it just makes the Lotus 125 much more enjoyable to me, because right now, I'm not thinking, turn the DRS on and so on. I'm just driving it. And when time comes to use the DRS, I just go for it. Let's do just for fun another lap. One thing that also I'm working on is the audio of the tires. and basically I'm rewriting all the algorithms to generate this the levels of the audio in order to make it first of all easier to hear. Right now I have my volume a little bit higher than the default. I like to hear tires when I drive, so so everything that happens in the audio of the tire is much smoother, so you can hear it much better and relate much better to what the car is doing just listening to the tires. Also, it removes parameter from the car and move it to a global setting for Assetto Corsa, which is also important because it just gives you a better, all the cars tend to behave the same as far as, here we go with the DRS, as far as the audio of the tire works. And so it's much easier to relate to what the car is doing, changing from one car to another car. As you can hear, the pitch of the tire is slightly higher than what it used to be. If you can hear it, is a bit higher, but just because that just sits better in the mix. It's just easier to separate the noise of the tire from the other noises that we're getting, like winds and road noise and so on. So it's just more clear what the tire is doing. It's also easier to hear it in braking. You know, now I'm braking now, and it's much more progressive. So, and also it's much better when you lock the tire. It's very, very clear when you lock a tire, because like, no, very, very easy to say, okay, I locked it. And it's amazing what this does to your braking foot. It's like, you know, it's automatically coming up to release the brake when you hear that noise. And I think it's a huge step forward. I spent like a couple of days, I think last week or the beginning of this week, hating Assetto Corsa totally. I totally hated it. I couldn't understand why the driving just didn't feel precise. And I was totally going crazy. I was checking on, you know, all my source code from, you know, comparing the source code with 3 months ago, 4 months ago. What did I change? What did I change to give this very, you know, vague feel to what the car was doing? Sometimes it was going into the corner, you know, with the nose too fast into the corner, and it was really complicated to understand what was going on. And at the end, what I discovered was that because with the new, once I fixed the relaxation length, what is happening is that starting with a huge burnout is much more common in Assetto Corsa right now, and especially also the more I get upset about something that's happening, the more I launch the software, and I tend to come up from the pits, you know, with my tires on fire, and then just by chance, you know, I turn on one of the app that I have, and I just by chance I just glanced to a value, and you know, it was the graining of the rear tire at 30%, 40%, and that was the reason why everything felt terrible. And that's also the reason why you saw that 1 to 5 fix 1.2.5 update on Steam, and that was literally 1 hour after I discovered this thing, and I went on Skype with Aris and say, look, we need to do something about this, because I don't think real drivers have, in their mind, oh, let me start slowly so I don't come up with 30% graining on my tires. So yeah, that immediately changed everything. So it's like now I'm in a period where I can't stop driving. Also, I'm resetting basically all the force feedback level for all the cars, and I'm doing it with in a more organized, automated way. It's not really automatic like the software is doing it by itself. I still need to drive it, but I basically wrote a system that is looking at the average amount of force feedback that I get during cornering in a particular lap, and then is automatically readjusting the internal force feedback multiplier in order to bring that value to 90%. 90% is a sweet spot because it's strong enough to take full advantage of all the power you have in your steering wheel, but you still get that 10% available to give you the information about vibration, curbs, and so on. So I'm doing this slowly for all the cars, and I'm doing it all on the same track in the same condition. So when 1.3 will come out, all the cars basically will have a very consistent feeling on the steering wheel. So yeah, it's a period that I just cannot stop driving in Assetto Corsa. I am really enjoying the feel I'm getting from the cars right now. So yeah, so this is DRS. And it's an interesting thing that, as I said, I wasn't really a fan of DRS before, and I'm really getting into it, which is also another problem, which is with the user interface, because the fact that now I need to communicate when the DRS is available, when it's not available, open up a problem with the user interface, because you cannot guarantee that people will have the right app on. And of course, these are the kind of things that you discover if you go on the forums, but if you don't, I'm wondering what's the best way for the software to communicate to you, which is also something else that I think is missing in Assetto Corsa. Like, for example, I discovered that there is a Z4 S something version that has the possibility to configure the turbo. And funny enough, the way I discovered that is by checking that the AI was good on that car, because the AI in Qualify put the turbo up, and when you have all the turbo up, it's basically creating damage to your engine. So I saw that damage display coming up, and I wonder how many people know that, and I'm sure that 99% of the people don't know that, because the software doesn't tell you. The software doesn't tell you this car has a turbo, adjustable turbo, and you can adjust it like this and like this, which is using the keyboard at the moment. And we are changing that to allow you to have some sort of turbo boost button on your steering wheel, where you basically cycle between 100% boost and whatever boost is the default that you have, or whatever setting of turbo you have before you press the boost button. And but still, I think that there is a need for the software to tell you, look, this car has got a turbo that you can adjust. Look, this car has got a DRS that you can turn on, and look, this track has got DRS zones now, so you should look at your app to see when the DRS is available. And I'm thinking probably a good place to insert this sort of hints related to the car that you're going to drive. Probably a good idea would be to stick those into the loading screen. So as the software is coming up, you get all this information. It's telling you, you know, this car has a turbo, this car has a curse, this car has a DRS, and so on. So that's one possibility. The other possibility could be to have a sort of default Assetto Corsa user interface that's kicking in, that you can disable with a key. So you have this default user interface with all the information that you need, like basically every other game on the screen, and you can still open apps and put it on the screen, and then if you want, you can use a key to disable this default user interface. So, and of course, in this default user interface, you can start add things like DRS, if it is available, is it not available, so on. And so give you part of the screen that you can use, and you can make sure that, you know, users that don't know that, you know, are not the kind of user that are expert enough to say, well, I don't want the default user interface, so I will turn it off. If they can find how to turn it off, it also means they understand that there are apps, that there are information that they might be missing. While if you are entering the game for the first time, it's essential that the game gives you all the information you need in order to operate that car to the full potential. So yeah, that's something else that I would like to do, and we will see how and when we can do this. On the multiplayer side, I did a couple of things, and one simple things, but I think they have potential. One thing is a welcome message. So if I now join a server, this was giving me problems before the stream, so I hope it works. I should have fixed it, but you know, if it crashes. You know. So there you go. So I enter into the server, and what I get is this new thing that eventually Aris and somebody else will make it prettier than this. But that's how it is pretty much. It's a very simple idea. It's just a text file with something that the server can send to the clients with everybody that is connected, and it's giving basic information about the server. It's cool because you can also use fully international characters, so there's a little Japanese there, and yeah, and you just, you know, click and you go back to a situation like this. And now the way the server controls this thing is this is just a text file, and in the server configuration, you can have a different one. So for example, you can have this one. And start the server again. And when the client connects to it, it will get the new one. Something else that I think might be cool is to use the same system that I'm using, that is actually we discovered it's got a problem for the authorization of the server. It could be interesting to have also another things like this that is actually used to generate a welcome message per user. So if you have a plugin or a database, you know, you can sort of generate a welcome message dedicated to that user. So let's say, for example, you have a user that has got a very high number of accident ratio. You know, in theory, the server could welcome you with, hey, you know, take it easy, don't exaggerate, because your accident ratio is already pretty high. So yeah, that I thought it's not code at the moment, but I think it's got a potential, that thing. Something else that I'm also doing, which opens the door to a couple of things, which I know that people that use multiplayer love, is something like this. So let's hope this doesn't crash. Looks like it's crashing. No, it's okay. So, oh my God, so much fog. Now, I joined this server. If I go into the setup, I don't know if this comes up in the stream. You see that setup IO, I don't have my buttons anymore to load and save setups. And I can still change my force feedback if I want. I can still change my fuel if I want. But if I go into aerodynamic, you know, the buttons to change this are gone. And that basically what it is. I'm running a server with a fixed setup. So when the server starts up, it's sending a setup to the client, and the client is receiving this setup, and then the server is saying to the client, well, this is a fixed setup race, lock the setup to whatever I give you. And another possibility for the server would be to set up, you know, to default setup, although, you know, default can be changed for some cars. Of course, you go in to check some problems and so on. But the easiest way is to have a setup that the server sends to the clients when they connect, so you can get fixed setup races. I still don't know, honestly, and that's just ignorance on my side. So it will be really nice if you guys have experience in servers that use fixed setup. You know, if you can comment down in the comments section and say, you know, is the fuel something that is still possible to change when you're racing a fixed setup race, or does the fuel come with the fixed setup? Because I'm also doing something on a server that allow you to define different setups for the different session. So you can have a setup for the race, a setup for the qualify, and a setup for the practice. So lots of opportunities here. And now that I have a system that is able to communicate from a server to the client, a setup, now in theory, if I also organize something from the client to the server, I can also make a function to share a setup. So you can send your setup to somebody, and what is going to happen, I think, I don't want to get into too complicated user interface where you get like, you know, this guy is sending you a setup, do you accept the setup or not? What I'm thinking is more in the lines of the setup you receive will just end up in your setup folders. And so you can go there and it will have, you know, something like, you know, shared setup from user blah 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 in the right folder for car and track. And so you can go there and load it if you want. So that's an idea. Something else I was talking about, I forgot to finish the discussion about the grain and blistering. So when I sorted that out, I sort of understand, well, you know, it's too difficult to read the grain and blister levels. That's why testers and users didn't pick up on this problem. And so now in the setup, in the car status, together with the temperature, you also get your blister and grain levels. So you can check that out straight away without opening, developmenting, and trying to look at data that you shouldn't look at. So yeah, so that's for the netcode. And finally, for today, I want to talk a little bit about force feedback additional effects. A short story, we added a new one, which is called understeer, and it's basically designed to overcome some limitation that you can get from the fact that the steering wheel is not really strong enough to give you the amount of force that you need, the amount of change in force that you need in order to feel the understeer when you're driving with a car that has a high caster in the geometry. And what is happening is that if you have, the caster is just sending you, the force feedback is more, is coming from the lateral force and is not coming from the aligned torque of the tire. So as the caster goes to zero, you get only the alignment, the self-aligning torque on the force feedback. And the self-aligning torque falls off before you reach the ideal peak of the grip of your tires. So changing the caster changing is changing the steering wheel feel a lot. And we added this effect that is going to be possible to enable it from the user interface. So it's part of the force feedback additional effects that we have. Talking about force feedback additional effects, I just want to give a clear explanation of what they are and why they're there, and the amount of realism that you can expect from those. And I sort of order this in order of how realistic they would be. So the first one that we have is Lips. What Lips is doing is adding a vibration on the steering wheel as you are going over the limit of the tire. Now, this is something that is definitely realistic. It's definitely something that could be there on a real tire, and it's especially easy to feel if the surface is quite slippery. In Vallelunga, there is just attached to Vallelunga, there is a center where they do driving school for safe driving, and they have a couple of exercises on very slippery surface. And one of these exercises is a skid pad, and where one of the exercises on the skid pad is actually feel the understeer. And it's quite clear that there is a vibration coming in the steering wheel as you're getting into the understeer part of the grip. So yeah, so those are there, and so it's quite realistic to have Slips additional effect. Then we go to the road effect. What the road effect does, well, what it does technically is translating the instant acceleration of your suspensions compared to the body of the car into left-right torques on your steering wheel. Now, the reason behind that, the thinking behind that, is that there are a couple of things, or a couple of information that we get from a car, a real car, when we're driving from the steering wheel. The one obvious information is the left-right torque on the steering wheel, how hard it is, how hard it's pushing us into one direction or another direction. But there is also not something else that is coming through the steering wheel, and it's coming through the steering wheel for a very simple reason. Imagine you are an external body sitting in the car, and basically you have 2 points of contacts with the car. One is your butt, but unless you're driving in a single seater, most of the time your butt is sitting in a soft seat, and that soft seat is a spring and damper system by itself. It's actually so important that in books that talk about suspension design for road cars, actually the driver is modeled as an additional, with an additional spring and damper, in order to study what is the effect of a bump, what the driver feels when it goes over a bump. So you design a suspension, and you have to take into account that there is also an additional spring between the driver and the car itself in the seat. But then your second point of contact with the car is the steering wheel, and that's no spring there. So as the car is going over a bump, you get this sort of, because of the inertia of your body that is sort of moving, you sort of get an immediate feedback from the steering wheel of that thing that happened. And it's not a left or right movement of the steering wheel. It's simply a vibe. Actually, it's either is a jerk, is a vibration up and down, left and right, something like that. And you know, that kind of thing is what many people that drive a car on a racetrack, and then they go on the simulator, sometimes they miss that kind of feeling. And so because we don't have a steering wheel that has that feature, and you know, if guys from Logitech, Fanatec, or Trustmaster, you know, if you're looking at this, you know, that's something that could be cool. You know, put a motor, put a vibration, put something that the software can drive into the steering wheel, so it sort of vibrates the entire thing. So it doesn't just vibrate me like this. It's just vibrating the entire chassis. You know, and that would be really interesting to translate this kind of road effect that I'm translating into left and right torques, actually translating it into a real vibration. So that's the explanation for that. So again, it's reasonably realistic to use. Then we go into curbs. Curbs is a sort of expands on that idea of road. And again, when you go over a curb with a real car, again, you're getting a huge amount of vibration coming through the car itself, and the steering wheel has movement up and down, because the entire car is moving and vibrated up and down. And some people really expect that. Of course, they expect that, to feel that in the simulator. I'm not a fan of this one, because this is really unrealistic. One of the reasons why it's unrealistic is, first of all, it's really designed to give that sort of feedback. And it's active also on curbs that are flat. So there are curbs at Imola or Spa that in reality are flat. So when you go over them, you shouldn't get any vibration at all on the steering wheel. Still, you're getting it, because those are not really coming from the physics. Now, of course, the physics is reacting to curbs, but it reacts in something that in a way that probably is not completely clear to people. But if you notice, let me fire up the simulator so we can try this. Of the server. Let's get something like this. I think it's got some interesting curves. So now, one thing to understand is that I run Assetto Corsa without additional curb enabled. So all I'm getting is from the physics itself, so not from additional effects in the concentrate, idiot. Not from additional effect in the physics. So if I go over this one, I don't feel it. If I go over this one, I think you can also hear it in the microphone. So look at it. Inside curb, I don't feel it. Outside curb, I feel it. Now, of course, as a developer, this is very obvious. The reason why this is happening is really, really obvious. When you're going over a curb, and you're hitting your inside curb, you're turning, and all the weight of your car is on the outside. It's not on the inside of the car. So what is happening is that your force feedback is basically mostly driven, what you feel, from the tire that is on the tarmac, not from the tire that is hitting the curb. Many times that tire, sometimes, especially in cars like these, has got almost zero load on it. So that's why it's also very easy to lock your inside tire. So even if that tire is going over a curb, it's bouncing around, it's totally, it will be, it is not realistic to expect a vibration coming left and right on the steering wheel. It's just not something that will happen, because that tire doesn't have enough weight to actually generate it. Of course, the effect is there, but it's so small compared to the other one that has got all the loads and is generating a huge amount of force on the steering wheel, to counteract your movement. That, it's totally normal that you don't feel that curb on the steering wheel left and right. Again, in a real car, you will feel it as a vibration up down. Now, when we hit the outside curb, it's exactly the opposite situation. So we're still turning. So we're still, or coming from a turn. So we're still trying to straighten the car up. And so we have more load on the tire that is hitting the curb, or at least we have the same load that we have on the one that is not hitting the curb. That's why, at that point, when we hit that curb, we feel it in the steering wheel coming through the force feedback. And this is totally normal. This is something that, I would expect the software to have a bug if it doesn't do it. You hear it, So no inside curb, and outside curb, bang, you hit it. So if that didn't happen, that would be a bug. So the fact that it's happening is really telling you that the software is exactly doing what it's supposed to do. Of course, I totally understand people that want to have that feedback and somehow noise feedback from the curb, because sometimes driving fast is a sort of musical rhythm. So you really want to get that in a corner. You really want to get that prr, 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 outside corner as you're entering, that hit the apex on the curb and then go out and hit the curb again coming out. So you want to get that sort of constant feedback on what's going on. But in my opinion, what the software is doing without that additional effect is good enough. And so my suggestion is very easy. Don't use them, all of them. Just rely on the realistic force coming out from the steering wheel. And then we go to the last one, which is going to be new for 1.3, which is the understeer, and it's basically a fictional reduction of the torque as you are going over a limit of a tire. And This one is completely unrealistic, but again, it's just overcome some limitation that we have, because the torque that we have on the steering wheel is just not enough to make us appreciate the difference, between a 90% force and a 70% force, which is what you get if you don't use this understeer enhancement feedback effect. So yeah, that goes much lower. I'm sure there are people that are gonna love it and people that are going to hate it. So again, my suggestion will be to keep it off and enjoy what the software is sending you through the normal force feedback. Again, it's down to what people expect from force feedback in a simulation. I expect something very smooth, unless something dramatic is happening to the car. It's my understanding, reading around, that lots of people consider a very spiky, mess it up force feedback as good. So yeah, so you can still do that in Assetto Corsa if you want, but this is not really how I would suggest to go if you want to get the total realistic package. So here we go for a short. This is going to be really short, like 15 minutes Q&A. So I already see some question like still hope for soft lock. Soft lock are already in the software. I coded it in a live stream a couple of streams ago. So yeah, it's already there. Whether or not it's going to be default on or default off, I don't know. So we'll see. What happened to Monza sopraelevata, and when we will see it in Assetto Corsa? We actually have a solution for that. So I have to check how the artificial intelligence is doing on it. So, but we are moving forward, and I want to implement it. Any progress on ABS? At the moment, no, I didn't do any work on that. And, I don't know if I'm going to work on that or not. Physics simulation question. Are the cars in an AC raycast vehicles? No, they're not raycast vehicles. They're multi-body. They're multi-body simulated. So it's not raycast. What a raycast vehicles is one rigid body with raycast that simulate the entire suspension, entire system. And it's pretty limited because you're not simulating the fact that the tire and the hub and the disc and so on is a separate object that has got its separate velocity and inertia. So the kind of simulation that the kind of result you can get with raycast is very limited. Also, you don't have effects of suspension geometry and things like that. So it would be a very limited, it's a very limited way to do simulation, which makes totally sense if you're doing Need for Speed. But if you're doing Assetto Corsa, it doesn't really make sense. There is an issue with cars like the Milan under heavy braking with the ABS, the FV is very spiky. Yes, that's something that we're looking at, and it should be much better now. Can you share setups where not on the same server at the same time? At the moment, you cannot share setups, so I don't see how you will be able to share setup if you are not on the same server. At the moment, I don't. It's not possible to connect to computers without having another one in the middle. So you need something in the middle to do the connection. Is there a possibility for a high downforce package for the Saber C9? I don't know, more a question for Aris. Aris is packed with work already, so I feel incredibly guilty of asking anything to him at the moment. Is there any chance for laser scan? Is that any chance in laser scan future to make rich normal lean? I don't understand what the laser scan has to do with rich normal lean fuel mix. Yeah, but not really something. I don't see that. I added water temperature. You know, that's just random thing thrown in there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much it makes sense to add these kind of things, honestly. Can you add FF mode is realistic game in which present additional values? The thing about force feedback is that realistic is very subjective. You know, everybody has a completely different idea of what realistic is. So, you know, what I'm telling you is just what my idea is, which is not, you know, it's not the final word on it. When we will see the new UI, and will it work like Dirt Rally mouseless UI? I answer many times. You know, there is, you know, you will see the new UI on the console when you buy Assetto Corsa on the console. Whether or not it will be on the PC is all up in the air at the moment. You know, there is no bindable ABS and TC. Yes, I'm not doing it personally, but I know Marco is asking for this to one of our developers, so this might happen. Can you give a clear explanation of bump stop and bump stop value in suspension? I cannot give it right now. Well, it should be quite easy. I think it's you have a suspension in what is called the design state, which is the way you design it with the numbers. And bump stop and up, bump stop down is simply how much the suspension can go up, it can go down before hitting the bump stop. You know, as simple as that. From the design position. I have a 27-degree wheel and I want one-to-one cylinder ratio. I used to scale it. You're totally right, Furious Me. I totally understand what you're saying, and I think you're totally right. And I had a talk with Aris about this, and I thought that we should have somewhere something that say, don't try to scale my steering wheel. You know, it's like, of course, you know, you by doing that, you're aware that you're losing all the other, all the remaining degrees of rotation. By doing that, but I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you that it should be an option to have a one-to-one selection. Emanuele, il volante, se il volante è morbido da fermo non ho capito la domanda, perché dici che è morbido da fermo e poi quando ti muovi diventa leggero. Che non ha molto senso. Save replay session. Yes, I know there is a problem with saving replays of sessions. At the moment, I don't have a solution for that. Do you have mechanical engineers in the team? No, we don't have. Any plans for better Steam integration? Not at the moment. Oh my God, so many questions. I like, interesting question. I like how the launch screen shows the track instead of the car. Do the track modders need to do something to work? Now, the way it works is that it's got a dedicated camera set. So yes, to do it properly, they should create a camera set to be used only on that. But if the file is not there, the system is going around looking for every fixed camera that it can find in the existing set. And if it finds fixed camera, it will add those fixed camera to the list of camera that are used. And sadly, if it doesn't find anything, basically it's undefined behavior. So you will see something with a camera pointed, I don't know where, and it's not going to change or move. So yeah, there is a little bit of work for the modders to do it. One thing that I want to say, talking about this this question about the bump stops. One thing that I think we really need is some place where we have a clear documentation of all the INI files that make up Assetto Corsa, and how these move from one version to another, what has changed, what is not there anymore. And I think if, you know, the idea that we have with Aris is to have a central location on the internet where, of course, only me and Aris can edit, but everybody can access. And so if you want to have your car to the latest, all you do is just go on the page and copy the entire INI content and put it in your car, and then you know that those are the values that are using. And also that frees us from having to use the comments in the INI to, you know, sometimes things can be complicated. And so, yeah. So you're not really talking about, still talking about the fuel-rich mixer and so on. So you're more talking about engine maps. You know, that's something that, you know, resembles what we're saying. So yeah, I think it's a cool feature, but at the moment I don't have that immediate plans for that. Something that I would like to do for the next update, so not 1.3, but I don't know if we find a way to do it. You know, I think it would be interesting to have like well, the ideal will have to, Microsoft has something where you can go on a website and make a suggestion on how to improve a particular software, and then user can actually vote that feature, and so that's a very clear feedback for the development team to see what the user would like to have, implemented. So the easiest way to do this would be from us to sort of come with a series of, okay, this is what is possible to do in the next version, but we cannot do all of this. So vote and decide, which one should get the priority, something like that. I think that would be an interesting experiment to try. Is there another step of wheel rate beyond the bump stop? The Packers also. It's another. Oh my God! I lost the position on the question. Will it be possible to have time-restricted races, reverse grids, and spectator mode in the future? Time-restricted races is something that I want to do in 1.3. Reverse grids, I don't know, but I would like to do this through the plugins. And spectator mode, definitely not. Definitely not, because I just cannot see. I just cannot see. Well, I can see the point of it, but yeah, it's very hard to put it in the software as it is now. If you have played sims such as iRacing, what's the main difference now? The first feedback is generated. I have no idea without reading the source code. I have no idea. I have no idea. When we will see preset for apps placement like HotLab. I like how you ask when, like, maybe never. Probably never. Probably never. You either have customizable user interface, or you don't have it. So you cannot have both. Approximate time for 1.3 should be the end of September. So not far. It's not going to be 4 months like the other one. And it's what I was saying. In this case, the date is got precedence over the features. So if some feature is not working, like 10 days before the release, we just cut the feature. So don't get too attached to the things that you will see during the stream, because if we find problem, we will not delay the release. We will cut the feature and say, well, this feature will go to the next update and still release on time at the end of September. Yeah, I understand the user have different layout for each mode, but I also understand the huge amount of work that goes with that. So I totally understand, but I don't think it's going to happen. Is there any plan to improve mouse control? Oh my God, mouse control. I don't know how to comment on that, because honestly it's not a piece of code that I wrote, and I have no idea why he's doing that. So he's probably doing that because of, I totally no idea. Single play pit stop in pipeline for 1.3 or later. It's definitely in the pipeline, yes. Whether or not we make it for 1.3, we will see. One thing I definitely need to fix, and I cannot for the life of me reproduce it in a stable way, is the problem with the AI retiring, going to the pits because they run out of fuel. I just cannot understand why that's happening and how that's happening, because it doesn't happen every time. It's very annoying. It's, very annoying. What's my all-time favorite track? Always Alton Park. Still Alton Park. I love the way you're jumping my question. I'm sorry, there are so many questions. Even consider adding the Koenigsegg. Personally not, because it's not my job. But, so you sort of have, for this thing you need to convince Marco it's a cool car. Because Marco is the guy. I said many times that, I don't get my favorite cars in Assetto Corsa. So even if we have the brands, we don't get the car that I like. So I'm like you. I don't count anything. For controls, Dotini is making no effect after the patch. After the patch. Makes no effect after the patch. The scale value. So whatever you do to the scale, it doesn't do anything. I will check. Is there anything in development with regards to transmission physics? I would like to add torsions to that. But yeah. Yeah, but it's lots of work to put the hands into that code and to add torsional stuff. But that's the thing that I would like to do. Emanuele, se il volante è leggero quando sei fermo è perché c'hai il damper spento nel pannello di controllo. Metti il damper a 100 e il volante è duro quando sei fermo. Quindi non c'è niente da sistemare, devi semplicemente abilitare il damper nel pannello di controllo. Would it be possible to add the ability to share ghost files? Oh, it's already possible. Open your document folder where the ghost car are saved, put it in an email, and send it to the guy you want to send it. And there you go. Would spectator mode in multiplayer be like adding an additional pit stop slot? So this area is no, because that no. No, there is much more complicated than that. Stefano, can you say some background secrets from things to come in 2016? What are your dreams? What you in game or complete race weekend simulation? Honestly, I really no idea. I know 2016 will release the console version, but what we do after that, no idea at all. And complete race weekend simulation, I don't understand what you mean. What I would like will have to have a championship simulation, so without being forced to use the career. So yeah, a championship simulation, I would like it. I would like the possibility to say I want to do a championship with these cars, and this is the list of trucks that I want to race. These are the points that you get, and blah blah blah, and change the rules, and then you start the championship, and it sort of keep track of where you are in the championship. That would be something that I would really like to see in Assetto Corsa. Is there a possibility to make a physics-related question stream? It could be a possibility, yes, but probably the forum is a better place because it just gives time to many times, you know, there are things that I remember and there are things that I need to open the code and go and look at it, and you know, because are things that might be 3 or 4 years old and I just don't remember it. So I don't know if a stream is and you know, if it's really the right format for that. I saw Christian Koenigsegg saying that his cars kind of suck in all games. They don't implement it with realistic data. Wow, that's a very interesting quote, you know. So, yeah, again, you know, I think that's a very interesting thing to, you know, that's a very interesting way to put it to Marco, you know, challenge accepted. Any plans to add chassis flex? No, because it's a frequency that is really above. If you want to do it properly, you know, it's what triggered the need for camber sensitivity? I think sorry, I need to repeat the entire question. What triggered the need for camber sensitivity change in 1, 2, 3? Usually what Assetto Corsa is so complicated that you know, there are things that sometimes you do in a certain way, and you know, and you do it because you have a certain amount of data that tells you that that's the right way, and then you either come up with new data and you start to you know, experiment and say, actually this is good, this is a good change. And I think that's exactly what happened with Aris. Mi fai un saluto dal vivo, per favore? Ciao, baci. Now that I see the development is coming along, we'll be able to compete with motor racing. I shouldn't have read this one. That was so bad. With respect to environments, will there be any addition that impact the cars beyond what we already have? For example, windy condition and rain. Rain, of course not. Windy condition, why not? It's not really complicated. It's not really complicated, the wind. Ground effect Formula 1 possible with a stiffer tire needs. I don't know. It's a matter of trying and you know, and you know, trying and see. We are already 30 minutes, so we should close this. Again, another question on the rain. No, there is no plan for rain on Assetto Corsa. Okay, so on this, you know, on the usual question on rain, I think we can close this stream, and I'll give you the appointment to the next stream, which is going to be on Wednesday, and it's going to be the usual coding stream instead of this different format. So thank you everybody for joining, and see you next time. Ciao.